I'm here at the request of some very good lifelong friends in Barry Clawberg and his fiancee Sarah. Prior to really getting to know what the National Meningitis Association was all about. But as I've learned about the cause, the disease, I've just gained so much respect and am in awe of the people like Gary and Sarah, and there's so many other people who have dedicated themselves to really raising the awareness of this disease, of this illness that can be preventable. And so it's something that just with a little bit of awareness that we can eliminate so much suffering, so that the people that many of the people who here have gone through that. And so it's an opportunity to raise money, to help raise the awareness, so that this doesn't have to happen, so that one day meningitis is considered like polio in our society, that it's a thing of the past because of the vaccinations. And so I'm honored to be a part of this.
Do you feel that athletes as actors have a particular opportunity based upon their platform, their position in public, to really convey the gravity of this illness in a way that empowers the public to move or make their politicians move more on this?
Well, I think that anybody that's in public profile, whether it's an entertainer, an athlete, a politician, can use that platform to help raise the awareness, like Richard Thomas and James Naughton are doing, as they've given of their time and their talents here tonight, and to be able to really create this excitement, this buzz, if you will, that there's a lot of hope out there, and it's something that is not just pie in the sky, that there's a reality. As an athlete, I was blessed to be able to use my body and do something that I love doing, playing football. And yet, there's so many other these kids, like Gary's son Nick, who at 14 was robbed of that opportunity. And yet what I'm just completely blown away with is, here's a guy with an attitude that I wish I had just a fraction of. I mean, he doesn't let the idea of not having arms and hands deter him. It's not an excuse. And so I can do nothing but just stand in awe when I see somebody like that, and then it gives me such a wonderful perspective of what's important and things that, what people can do if they set their minds to it.
At the same time, your mere presence is actually doing a lot to raise awareness to this. So it should not be dismissed that your presence does raise awareness and does make a significant contribution to this campaign.
Well, I'm honored to be a part of the team, and to do whatever I can do to help the cause. I personally have not been affected by it, but I have compassion and empathy as I've got to know those individuals who've had family members or personally been affected by meningitis. And so if it's something that I can do, is from where I stand as a former athlete, and be able to just do a little bit to raise the awareness, I'm willing to do so.
Thank you, sir.
Okay? All right.
What I will do is, before you leave, either by way of Sarah or you, I'll give an email address so we can send you a link for this.
Okay.
Well. Thank you.
Thank you. Good question.
With a video that was put together by Marcy Camel. When you see it, you'll understand why NMA got started and why we are all here tonight.
I got sick in November of '08 and was admitted into the hospital and was there for almost 7 months. I remember waking up from time to time and looking at my legs, and they were getting darker and darker and darker. and I was black. My limbs were dead and attached to me, and my legs below the knee were amputated, and so were my fingers. The recovery, I mean, immediately after the amputations, it was probably the worst times of my life. I really didn't know meningitis could lead up to what I went through. I'm just lucky that I survived. Not everyone is as lucky as me. Get vaccinated.
I had never heard of meningococcal meningitis before Aaron got it. We didn't know there was a vaccine. My daughter didn't even have a fighting chance because we knew nothing about it. She had been home the week before on spring break, went back to school on Sunday, had dinner with her friends on Monday evening, and started feeling a little sick. She complained of numbness in her arms, stiff neck, and her friends took her to the hospital about 2:30. By 5:15, she was dead. We didn't even get there in time because we were over 3 hours away. What happened to my daughter shouldn't happen to another child. Get vaccinated.
In August of 1999, I attended a summer camp up in western Massachusetts. After going on a 30-mile hike on Appalachian Trail over 3 days, I started feeling ill at dinner. Over the next 16 hours, the flu got worse and purple blotches started to appear on my abdomen. Paramedics were called and I was rushed to the hospital. My liver failed, my organs failed, I had a collapsed lung. I was given about a 10% chance of survival, and I was diagnosed with meningococcal meningitis. About a week and a half after contracting this disease, I was transferred to a hospital in New York City, where I had my legs amputated at the knee and my hands amputated at the forearm. 2 months after contracting this terrible disease, I was absolutely shocked to find out that there was a vaccine available that could have prevented all this from happening. Bacterial meningitis is preventable. Get vaccinated.
On January 27th in 2001, our daughter, Adrian, complained about a headache and her legs hurting her. So she went to bed. When she woke up the next morning, she had a high fever. And at that time, I told Dwight that we're going to the emergency room.
The biggest concern was her blood pressure was dropping, and she had this severe pain in her legs. She coded for the first time. Her heart stopped. They had to start breathing for her. And they worked on Adrian for probably over an hour, hour and a half, and finally had to declare her dead. The most horrible thing in the world is to survive your child, and I don't want anybody to ever have to go through that.
What happened to our daughter shouldn't happen to anyone. Get vaccinated.
I was one of those patients who was misdiagnosed because they thought, oh, regular fever, and it's just, he'll stabilize, but I didn't. I was in a coma for 12 days, and they had to amputate all 10 fingers and below the knee. My dad was the first one that told me, you have bacterial meningitis, and my mom actually walked in and couldn't say anything. She just nodded her head. Get vaccinated.
I lost my 10-year-old son, Braden, to meningococcemia on January 8th, 2010. My son was a perfectly healthy, happy, and vivacious 10-year-old child. On Friday morning, January 8th, he woke up at 5 a.m. complaining of a headache. He began vomiting. I noticed he had a rash beginning on his ear. I didn't know what it was. The emergency room doctor was well aware that he had meningitis and started treating him for that. He passed away at only 17 hours from the first onset of his symptoms. My son, had he been vaccinated, would be alive today.
When I first went to get my pre-physical exam for college, I did everything that was on that list. Unfortunately, my family physician did not have the meningitis vaccine in stock at the time, but he told me it's smart once you get up to school to get this vaccine. That was the farthest thing from my mind to get vaccinated for meningitis. I never missed a day in high school, and all of a sudden I get bacterial meningitis, and my world's turned upside down. It was a Friday night, and I felt like I had the flu, high fever, vomiting. The next morning I woke up and I knew something was wrong. I could barely sit up out of bed. When I got to the hospital, the doctor knew something else was going on. I was put into a drug-induced coma, and that night I was given my last rites because they didn't think I was going to make it through the night. I was in that coma for 6 weeks, and when I woke up I had amputations to pretty much all my fingers on both my hands and both my legs below the knees. Because I didn't educate myself 10 years ago, I'm paying the consequences today. Get vaccinated.
To me, it's like I'm still in a bad dream and I'm waiting for someone to wake me up. I received a phone call from my son, Robert. First thing is, Mom, don't panic. I've been to the ER and they're discharging me. They're telling me I have a pulled muscle. As the day progressed, later on that afternoon, he returned to the emergency room, and that's where our nightmare began. When the doctor came out to let us know that his heart had stopped and to explain to us that they thought he had meningitis, our world fell apart. And then when we were allowed to go in, I could not believe that he was so unrecognizable. 21 hours from when Robert called us that morning, he died. It was such a shock to us because I had never heard of meningococcal disease and had no idea that a disease could take a very healthy, vibrant, young human being and bring him down within hours. What was most shocking to have found a week after he died was that this disease is potentially preventable with a vaccination. Please get vaccinated.
Through the NMA, I am trying to alert other parents to this deadly disease.
We've taken on the work with the National Meningitis Association so that families never have to suffer like we've had to suffer.
What happened to me shouldn't happen to anyone.
Get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated.
Well, I'm going to get vaccinated. I mean, it's time for our awards presentations. Let me tell you that our beautiful awards were created and donated by NMA mother and artist Shara Ludlam. Is Shara here? Shara here? Gary, do you know? She's not here. Then I guess I won't ask her to take a bow. I want to ask Lynn Boza, however, to come up. Back up. Lynn?
It's my great pleasure to introduce a friend, a wonderful friend to the National Meningitis Association, Chief Medical Editor of NBC News, Dr. Nancy Snyderman, who will present the Health Achievement Award to Dr. Jim Turner.
Thank you, Lynn. Come back up here. Lynn and I met many years ago when I was then working for ABC News, and it was time to do a story on meningococcal meningitis, and I met Lynn and Alan not long after their son died. Didn't know much about this disease, and it's through Lynn, you know, it's an amazing thing about being a correspondent for network news. You not only get to meet interesting people, but you're constantly learning. And Lynn is one of those people who sort of knocked my life off course. And I can honestly say taught me how to be a better parent, and taught me to sort of live in the moment, and obviously taught me a lot about this illness and this extraordinary organization. And it's on the shoulders of people like you that the world gets changed. And I think sometimes you don't take enough time to just relish the moment of how you have influenced so many people in this room and beyond. So this is as much a celebration. If I had just one thing that I would change for next year, I would make James Naughton, I would make him an auction item. and I would make it a non-silent auction item. Very live. And I'll start the bidding. You're worth every, I mean, I would pass out the paddles to every table. And on that, Dr. James Turner, who I met years ago, also has changed the course of how we've looked at this illness. You know, it's one thing to talk about disease, it's one thing to talk about vaccination, it's one thing to talk about what we should do. It's another thing to change policy. And he has, not only in his course as an internist and as a former president of the American College Health Association, but as someone who understands adolescent and college health, required and changed the fact that colleges now, in most cases, require kids to come to college prepared with vaccinations. I mean, we knew for years that people in the armed forces were at risk for meningitis in barracks. He recognized that kids who are sleep deprived and working hard and sharing chapstick and staying up too late and crashing for finals and living in crowded dorms had in fact some of the same lifestyles. It's because of him that there have been countless lives saved among our young college students. So tonight, Jim, I'd like to honor you with the Health Achievement Award. Please come forward and accept.
Wow, it's a long ways from Charlottesville, isn't it, Richard? I'm moved and honored to accept this from the National Meningitis Association and from Dr. Schneiderman, who I did meet about 10 years ago in her home in Marin County, where she interviewed me for a 2020 piece, and I was so impressed with Nancy. She had the whole studio set up in her living room. She had just come down from changing the bed of one of her kids who wet the bed. She had fresh muffins and coffee out in the kitchen for the production crew. And I said, and she had surgery scheduled that afternoon. I said, this is one hell of an impressive person. So, it's really an honor to receive this in front of my family, my lovely wife, Nancy, of 39 years, my son, Robbie, his wife, Nancy, and my nephew, Rob, and his wife, Sarah. You're lucky that my father, Robert, and my brother, Robert, didn't come too. There'd be too many Roberts in the audience. You know, I'm so impressed with the mission of the National Meningitis Association and how so many of you who have turned personal losses and tragedy into such a positive and powerful advocacy movement. Many of us had worked for years to try to get recommendations for immunization for young people against meningococcal meningitis. But you know, it wasn't really until the National Meningitis Association put faces on the personal tragedies by making appearances at CDC, appearances in the media. And that is when public health officials sat up and said, you know, this is a really serious problem and we need to consider vaccination. The impact that this association has is absolutely dramatic. We now have recommendations for adolescents and college students. 60% of America's college students are vaccinated against meningococcal disease right now. In 1997, the incidence of this disease is lower than it's been in recorded history. And I think a lot of it has to do with the efforts made to get young people immunized. We cannot get complacent, though. We must continue to discover new vaccine technologies for certain strains of meningitis. We need to make sure that we can successfully vaccinate vulnerable populations. But through the work of NMA, its partners in industry and public health, we really have made tremendous strides in decreasing the incidence of a dreadful disease. So thank you once again for inviting me for this award. It really is greatly appreciated.
And now if Sarah Herbert Galloway will... You got me. It's not your turn yet, Richard. Someone else is going to get an award first. Oh, Gary's going to take you out behind the woodshed. Yeah. So I'd like to invite Sarah Herbert Galloway to come back to the podium and present NMA's International Ambassador of Education Through Music Award to Josanne Tiwin.
Josanne and I have been friends for many years, and it is my honor to honor Josanne Wynn tonight. There's a lot written about all of our honorees in the program, but I consider myself, as many of my friends at these tables are, Josanne's extended family in America. Josanne was born in Vietnam and rose and blossomed into such a beautiful human being through adversity, perseverance, dedication, and hard work to become one of the most amazing, gifted concert pianists I've ever heard. Peter Beard, a friend of ours, often commented that Josanne has a wall of sound when she performs. And she's performed all over the world, most recently in Vietnam, the capital of Vietnam, Hanoi, celebrating their 1000th birthday. She's performed at Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center, various places. And you can read a lot about her in the program. One of the things that I wanted to say is the reason that I wanted to honor Josanne is she's watched over the years how I've spoken of this event. You know, she has a very busy life. First of all, congratulations are in order because Josanne and her fiancé just announced their engagement. She's engaged to Brian Grazier, and they live in California now, so it was a big trip for them to come, and I'm, again, thanking them for attending and allowing me to honor her. And when she heard about my event, she started to ask about the children in Vietnam. She said, do you know if they're vaccinated? I said, I don't know, but I'll find out. I called Lynn Bozoff, who got in touch with the CDC. And Josanne said, well, what can I do to help? I'm going to call the ambassador of Vietnam, the U.S. ambassador of Vietnam, and I want to get involved. So it really touched me in a very special way that even though she was so busy with her life and having her own charity, American Friends of Vietnam, AFOV is what I always say, and helps the children of Vietnam, helping the children of Vietnam through her music. She wants to help them now get vaccinated. So that is why we are honoring Josanne Wynn this evening. Josanne, it is my pleasure to present you with the Ambassador of Music Through Education Award at this time.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sarah. Before I forget, I just want you to know that we have two tables, number 6 and 7, gonna go give a speech right after this. Good evening, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, families and friends. It's an honor for me to be here tonight. What inspires and energizes more than music? Being part of music is being part of the hope and innovation in our lives and community. I remember vividly as a child growing up, so excited to go to school on the first day of the month with a piece of paper like this, with 12 squares, each say January, February, so on, for being straight-A students. Today, I still remember a picture of Vietnam with the Vietnamese musician taking a lunch break, eating one of 80 sandwiches outside the concert hall, dip their plastic cups in a large pot of green tea. Then they would go right back to the concert hall and play all the beautiful symphony of Mozart, Chopin, Schubert, and Beethoven. After my last trip to Vietnam, last November, I remember leaving Hanoi with a very clear picture in my mind. Innocent faces, innocent, smart, hungry, passionate, eager to learn, to contribute to the community. As you know, despite all the circumstances and diversity, our music, education, and musicians always end up on the top in Asia. We have produced Doug Tyson, who won the first prize Chopin International Competition in Warsaw, is now being the judge of this major competition, sitting next together with Martha Argerich. We are very proud. We also have one of the most powerful orchestra with an amazing classical standard, thanks to Russian education influence. From this, we have recently established the Hanoi International Piano Competition that already attracted many great pianists from all over the world to compete. It is extremely exciting and honor. Together, like a strong family, the classical music world grows at the same pace as the economy of Vietnam. Hence, my mission is to raise funds to help make a small difference for the education and lives of the Vietnamese student and musician, to enhance the opportunity to contribute to the community. My grandparents were able to give thousands of jobs in their plantation to the people of Vietnam. I have every reason to believe I can follow my family's steps. Not to mention, every day surrounded my friends like founders of Ravine Medical Center, Barry Cohen, Henry Beale, Charity Homeless Fathers, Soho and Tribeca Partnership, and Judy Flom, the trustee of the Julia, is very inspired. So far, my music school have been giving scholarship away to best 10 students the last 11 years. And most recently, with the foundation's help, we're able to put together orchestral concert for the musician perform at Hanoi Opera House and television. As most recently, we have our concert at Hanoi Opera House last October 31st. Celebrate music with 100 orchestral musicians. We welcome over 65 foreign and after the Vietnam War. We're both fortunate, unfortunate, and fortunate. To me, difficulties is a gift. Without understanding the difficulties and how amazing it is to be helped by others more fortunate, I may not have the same desire to have the less privilege. So I'm here today receiving this award knowing this is not for me. I only raised less than $100,000, nothing compared to others. But I'm receiving this on the behalf and for the Vietnamese musicians back home. I am deeply, deeply honored and wish they were all here tonight to witness this pivotal step in the friendship between the United States and Vietnam. Thank you very much.
those of you who just saw the photographers' backs, the ladies were gorgeous. And now it's my privilege to, as a lifelong Giants fan, bring up Barry Klarberg of Monarch Wealth and Business Management to present NMA's Children's Advocacy Award to Bart and Michelle Oates.
Thank you. Watched that video and it was extremely difficult. Other than Gary, I probably shared more meals with Nick Springer than anybody else in this room. Our conversations were not about how the hell did this happen to you? What are you going to do now? What could have prevented this? It was, you're coming out of the crease too quickly. Your stick is not close enough to the ice. You really want to play forward? Why don't you stick to goalie? Nick was my hockey goalie before he was struck in with this disease. When the news came to our house, my 4 children were at summer camp. I didn't believe my neighbor when he said what had happened to Nick. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to feel. But this is a person that I shared more eggs and bacon than anybody in this room other than my children are here today. The interesting part about this disease, it brought together myself and Sarah when she reached out to me before we dated and asked me to attend, along with others, the first National Meningitis Gala. She sent me a news article from the New York Times about a young kid named Nick Springer. And I immediately wrote back to her, I know Nick, I know Gary, I know the family. She said to me, let me check out with Gary a little about you. Well, a lot went through my mind, including the times that I've been thrown out of the hockey games, more than one, but it was for good reason. And nevertheless, I'm here today to give an award to an amazing couple, good friend, and confidant. Bart and Michelle Oates. Thank you. I'm extremely honored to present Bart and Michelle Oates with the Children's Advocacy Award from the National Meningitis Association. Bart is a 3-time Super Bowl champ, 5-time All-Star, and yes, that's a Pro Bowler. At the same time of his on-the-field activities, I remember Bart calling me and said to me, I think I'm going to go to law school. And I said, are you going to wait till you finish? He said, no, a football player only has to work 2 days a week. And he proceeded to go to Seton Hall Law School, proceeded to get his law degree, passed the bar, and I told him finally he could become my attorney as opposed to me becoming his accountant. Now, if he only practiced law, it would have saved me a lot of money. On the charity front, he's actively involved with the Boy Scouts of America, founding member of the Teaching Our Children Foundation, and the board of the Colin Gibling Foundation. Michelle is an active person in everything that she does. She walks the walk. She talks the talk. She's the president of the board of the trustees of the Colin Gibling Foundation, and 25 years ago she turned to me when I was practicing accounting. I need an accountant for the Colin Gibling Foundation. And I was their first accountant. I heard the saying, there's always a strong woman behind a strong man. In this case, they stand equal, side by side. The Odes have raised over $7 million for pediatric neurology at Columbia Presbyterian. They're also active members of their church and the community. I met Bart over 25 years ago. Actually, Bart was my first athlete client. I was very excited to have an athlete client with a guy filled with corporate bureaucratic clients. And when I was excited to have an athlete, I figured my life was going to change. It was going to be around the fun of the games. But I did realize that he goes to Sunday school, he teaches at a Sunday school, a lot different than with most athletes today. And it's very impressive what he does on and off the field. Instead, they were leaders. It's interesting, I was watching, I've been to 3 of Bart's Super Bowl wins, and I can tell you the consistency of the wins was as follows. The first time I saw him, the quarterback was Phil Simms. The second time I saw him was Jeff Hostetler. The third time was Steve Young. I watched him before the game walk them around like they were his children, showing them, telling them what to do, instructing them, guiding them, protecting them. It was an amazing sight. Well, with all that, my big brother and little sister, why don't you come up, and I will give you a award.
Thank you so much, Barry, and thank everyone at the NMA. This night has been incredibly inspirational, from the parents to Nick, you're awesome, and all those who have suffered, and all those families who have not suffered because of the NMA. I don't know if any of you know this, but Lynn Bozoff is an aerospace engineer who left her job to make a difference. She strapped on some beautiful white angel wings and used her knowledge about aerospace engineering to fly around the country and to make people's lives better. And not only did she do that, but she had a huge bag of wings. She strapped them on each and every one of the people involved in the NMA. Sarah, Barry, Nick, Gary, each and every one. I'd like everyone to stand and applaud each one of these incredible people for every single life that has been saved. And they'll never know who encouraged and who did it, but every single child's life that have been saved because of them. Let's all stand and applaud them.
Thank you. I've always wanted a standing ovation. You know, Barry, it's been 15 wonderful years. I know it's 25, but 15 have been wonderful. You know, one thing that has been demonstrated tonight, Barry, that one thing we have in common is that we definitely know how to pick women. And I got to tell you, as long as Sarah Galloway Herbert is involved with this organization, it is going to be fine, okay? Because she does not take no for an answer. And I am indeed honored and quite frankly just awed as I've got to know. I came last year to the event and was impressed with just the sheer sincerity and the humbleness with which, you know, the people that were involved
to go about their business. And it was inspiring to me. And when Barry came and we were talking, and he asked, you know, about coming tonight and being part of this, I was extremely reluctant. But then he just straightened me out and said, really, we want to honor your wife. So he was, I agree, obviously. I am grateful for the opportunity to be part of this and just to do a little bit as far as raising awareness and things that I've even learned tonight about just vaccination and just the simplicity of this and being able to create a cure and to do something that will affect people for the rest of their lives and preventing things that, you know, events that, you know, having the courage, like Nick and his family and others of you who are here to prevent this from happening to others. To me, it's inspiring, and I'm in awe and I'm humbled. And I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this as with my wife, Michelle. Thank you very much.
Paul Newman took me up to his hole-in-the-wall gang camp in 1988 when it was under construction, and I've been involved with the camps since then. I've been on the board, and I've done just dozens of galas and events, not just for the hole-in-the-wall camps, but for many different events. And this is something quite special, as Bart just said. This is my first time here, but I hope it won't be my last. I've met an awful lot of extraordinary people. So I'm glad this is the third annual, and look forward to the fourth and fifth. And now it's time for my old pal, my friend from many years, to be honored. My friend Richard Thomas. He's a great guy. As someone mentioned earlier, as Lynn mentioned, he's been a professional actor since he was 7 years old. In fact, you played Paul and Joanne's child in what movie? Winnie. In Winnie. How old were you? 17. And playing a kid who was 10. and he wears the years so well, and he started wearing them well when he was just a kid. But he's a great guy and a wonderful partner to have on the stage, I got to tell you. And so he's a wonderful partner for you to have here, as I understand he has been for the last couple of years. I want to ask Gary and Nick Springer to come up and present the Nancy Ford Springer Award.
And has grown to mean so much to me. I see many people here that I've known and gotten to know more over the years, and I see a lot of new faces. It's just wonderful to see everyone come together, and all of you are helping to save lives tonight just by being here, so don't think you're just here for the party, you're actually doing something wonderful. You're saving lives. There are many families who use tonight as a memorial to their loved ones who are lost. And they picked up the torch to move forward and fight the battle of meningitis in their honor. I would like to take this opportunity for a moment of silence for those that we have lost. God bless them all. And God bless all of you for being here. Tonight marks a special moment for me because I'm sure many of you don't know that over a year ago I had an accident and suffered a traumatic brain injury. So when I spoke last year, I was very nervous and had butterflies in my stomach because it was the first time that I had spoken publicly in 8 months after a lot of rehab at Burke Hospital up in Westchester. So I was very lucky. I got a second chance. Meningitis doesn't give anyone a second chance. So it's just, you know,
Tonight is momentous to me in more ways than one. I've grown to love my committee members, the people that I work with every year, and I really want you all to just give yourselves a big hug and a pat on the back because you've all done such a great job, and none of us could do this without you. I just want to say thank you. And being a proud mother of 2 children and a fiance of Barry Klarberg, a special thank you to Barry, my fiance, and my vice chair, who helps me with this. Charity in my house trickles down to my children. I'm involved with so many different things, and my son Justin is 17 years old. My daughter Alana is 13. Would you two stand up for a moment? And let your mom teen health advocates for all of their charitable endeavors with the National Meningitis Association. And Alana had a bake sale at her school recently, and in 20 minutes raised $450 for us. And that was only middle schoolers, so I'm thinking that maybe she could do this on a permanent basis or something. Most parents work for their children, and I have mine working for me. So anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful evening. You'll learn a lot. You'll meet new friends, and just thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, actually, it's also another evening. It's another exciting evening. Today would have actually been my father's 95th birthday. So let's hear it for John. But I took over my dad's business. He was one of the great press agents in New York. And I took over his business, and I've been doing theater and films for a long time. How I know Richard and Jim. And I actually represented a theater company for a number of years called the Blue Light Theater Company, which is probably one of the most innovative and most exciting companies. We ran for 5 or 6 years. Then the person who founded it kind of decided, you know, theater, acting, I'm going to go off to music. And he kind of left and he went off to music. We had some big hits. Joanne Woodward did our first play, which I think is the first thing she directed. We did Golden Boy. And he just so happens to be a kid named Greg Norton, who's his son. But Greg went off to music, but then he got married to a girl, and she stayed in the theater. So we still have the theater connection. And Kelly O'Hara, of course, is a Tony Award winner for things like Pajama Game, South Pacific, Dracula? No. We didn't win for Dracula, but I love Dracula. And Kelly and Greg are actually here tonight, and they're going to do us a great favor and sing one more number with James.
Walk down that lonesome road all by yourself. Don't turn your head back over your shoulder, and only stop to rest yourself when the silver moon is shining high above the trees. If If I had stopped to listen once or twice, if I had closed my mouth and opened my eyes, if I had cooled my head and warmed my heart, I'd not be on this road tonight. Carry on, never be sorry for yourself. It doesn't save you from your troubled mind. Walk down that lonesome road all by yourself. Don't turn your head back over your shoulder, and only stop to rest yourself when the silver moon is shining high above the trees. Enjoy your day.
That you were talking about, that was with Brian? There he is. Oh, not that guy? Oh, okay.